All right.
Yeah.
So this is my guy, Junior. Say your full name for the camera so they know who you are.
Yeah. My name is Junior Kelemeni.
All right. So what we've been talking about is just like where things start and then where we're at with it from a perspective of like entrepreneurship, creativity, physical expression, whatever.
Okay.
So starting off, let's start with like, where were you born and then where'd you grow up?
All right. So I was born here in Denver. Then we lived here for a few years. Moved to Pueblo. And then we were there till I was about 10, 11.
Okay.
So second grade, I would say, if I remember right, second, third grade. Then we moved to Junction. And I basically would say that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's how I know you.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, grew up there. And then
What informed your experience in Grand Junction early on? Like, what were you doing? What was interesting about the experience?
Junction's definitely an interesting place to grow up for sure. The area is beautiful, but like anywhere else, there's always the underlying, issues they have. But I thought it was good growing up there. I was a jock. I played a lot of sports.
When did you start? Did you start in elementary school, middle school? Like, what sports did you play?
And I mean, I tried to play everything.
Yeah.
I didn't try to limit myself to just trying to play one sport.
In elementary school?
This was early on, before that.
As early as you could, you were in a sport.
I mean, I was playing t-ball when I was 4 or 5 years old. So, I have 2 older brothers. My oldest brother played football. He played at University of Oregon, and growing up, him and my dad have always been my heroes.
Yeah.
So at a very young age, just watching my brother, playing football on the street with the kids and stuff like that, I've always been, athletic.
Yeah.
So very early on, this is when I got involved in athletics. But, my brother was also one of those guys that, music and, I remember growing up, had my piece of cardboard. Out there breakdancing.
Out there breakdancing, another physical expression.
Yeah, and that's just kind of watching my brother.
So you through your brother and everything, you gravitated towards sports and kind of hip hop culture.
Yeah, and just like I wanted to be like my brother.
Yeah.
But it's always been in being Polynesian too. It's you see guys that you're like, oh, I want to be like Junior Seau. Or, Troy Polamalu. Or, for us, it was like, that was like a way out.
Sure.
I'm not saying by any means I was poor or anything.
Yeah.
But, it was a way to try to make it,
a way to excel, a way to like understand your abilities.
Yeah, and try to capitalize on that. So, but yeah, early on, I would say is when I started getting into sports and that kind of thing. So,
what sports did you gravitate towards as you got older into middle school?
Well, I would say when I was younger, baseball was probably when I was probably all the way till 7th, 8th grade, middle school. Baseball was my game.
That was the one, yeah.
That was the one. But then I'm not gonna lie, I got kind of burnt out on it. And then basketball became my thing.
Yeah.
But then I just came to realize my junior, senior year that I'm like, I'm built for football.
Yeah.
So I just started gearing, everything I was doing.
Had you done football in middle school?
I played in middle school.
A little bit.
Well, when I was in fifth grade, I played out in Fruita. I played for the Cowboys for
Pee-wee?
fifth and sixth grade. I played
Pee-wee football?
Yeah, pee-wee football. And then I played when they built Redlands. I played with them that first year, and we won the championship. Then we moved into town behind West, and I didn't play that year. So that's kind of when I was in this like whole basketball phase.
Yeah.
So, and back then that's when Jordan was
The guy.
he was the guy.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to be like Jordan, so I gravitated really strong towards basketball at that point in time. I was going to all these basketball camps and stuff like that. But yeah, my junior and senior year, we got a new head coach at Junction, and he basically, I was like, hey, I think I'm more geared for football. And he kind of guided me along, as far as, where I'm going to go to college, and just kind of set me up for, success.
When you were playing football in middle school and then on to high school, what positions were you playing?
So because I was kind of bigger than everybody else, I played a lot of positions early on. But I was typically a tailback, like I was the one toting the ball around. But it was a different era back then. Running backs were bigger. Nowadays they're a little more smaller and shifty.
During that like middle school and high school run, being that you came from an athletic family, you had said your siblings were played football at a high level. Were there any things that you did or you learned that kind of pushed you? Like what were you doing? Were you just your regular run-of-the-mill gym workouts? Were you guys out in the desert running hills? What were you guys doing that was different than everybody else?
Yeah, most certainly. Growing up, one of my favorite athletes to watch was Walter Payton.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stories of how he used to train. He used to run a lot of hills.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So growing up, my dad was he played rugby at a really high level as well.
Yeah.
So he already had a training
In
mind.
Tonga?
Yeah, back in the islands, he played with the All Blacks back when he was younger.
Okay.
And stuff like that. But, he used to train me and my brothers. Not to the extent that they do now, but, for what we were,
Sure.
for the time we were a little bit more advanced than
Yeah, you were more
else.
advanced than what people were doing back in the 90s.
100%. We were, my dad would take us out to the hills out in Junction and run us for an hour.
Yeah.
I remember watching my brother, run this hill that was like 100 yards. My dad would make him run that thing 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
He'd be out there puking.
Yeah.
But, my brother is also one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen too.
Sure.
So, you gotta, it's like they say, it's what you do when they're not watching.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, that's kind of, as far as training, my dad used to have us out running these hills. We would weight train a little bit more, especially because my brother was playing college ball.
Did you find that you enjoyed the experience of bonding with your family, doing the extracurricular physical activity more, or did you enjoy like the camaraderie with the team more? Like which?
They're two different things.
Yeah.
For sure. Training with your family is, that's a whole different, feeling than
When you're locked into like a singular goal and everybody's pushing.
It's when you're out there with your sister and both your sisters and both your brothers, you're out there and your dad. Having your dad push you is a little bit different than like having a coach
Sure.
push you.
Absolutely.
having a coach push you, you kind of got to let your guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
When you're out there with your dad, kind of cussing under your breath. Like,
sure.
man, I want to be out here.
What the
Why are we out here doing this? You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? But, at the end of the day, you look back at those times and you're like, man, like,
It was a special time.
it was a special time, and, you don't realize how special it is until,
How fleeting those moments are.
yeah, and you're never going to catch those moments ever again.
Yeah.
And just to have that memory is like, oh man,
It's dope.
sometimes you wish you could go back and not be such a kid.
You could fully experience
Fully
it.
experience, and just soak it in, enjoy it a little bit more and not be such a kid, So, but, now that I'm older, I look back at those things and I'm like, I'm glad my dad pushed me like that.
So then you're playing football competitively. You're also heavily into like hip hop and breakdancing culture. How'd you guys do your junior and senior year when you realized you were going to go on?
Yeah, we were okay. Problem with us growing up, on that side of the hill, we were the only 5A school on that side of the mountain.
So you couldn't find a competitor worthy.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we didn't play competitive talent. It's just it's a different level on this side. The top schools on this, we used to get wrecked. We just didn't have the depth, the talent.
But then you used football to go off to college?
Yeah. To me, that was I did so many things in high school. I did 4 sports. I was in the chess club. I was in the band. I did so many things that it was, by the time I got to college, I probably could have went to a bigger school, but I was so focused on so many other things that my GPA didn't allow me to get into certain schools. I was getting looks at, I could have went to, some schools in the Pac-12, well, what is now the Pac-12, but after my brother's experience of him playing at Oregon, his advice to me was stay close to home.
Yeah.
So
enjoy the family.
Stay close to home. So that's why I went to school in Greeley, Northern Colorado.
What was that experience like?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was awesome. When I got there, they had won the national championship twice. So I was coming into a program where winning to me is important.
Yeah.
So going there was big for me because I knew I was going to a winning program. But when you go to a winning program, you really gotta show out when you get there. Which in my case was kind of, if you know me, I can be flashy. So, it fit my personality, and all the guys I played with are like that, So going there primarily, I won't lie, I went there to play football. Happy to come out of there with a double degree. But
what'd you get degrees in?
I studied music.
Okay.
I did sound engineering. I was one of the first guys to go through with their program through there. Yeah, and then I did social sciences.
Okay.
Speech communication. I was there for 5 years because I redshirted. So I had a little extra time to kind of
to get that double
degree. So I ended up just doing speech communication just because I'm in there with all the football guys. So
I have a lot of homies that are first generation, right? Like you. And I know that the college thing means a lot to the family.
Yes.
And you when you're stepping out with that double degree, I'm sure that also checks some boxes.
Sure. Well, I mean, as you know, both my sisters were each a year apart.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a race.
Yeah. a highly competitive family.
Yes.
That is now also using school as a competition.
As a competition. And the thing is like, I mean, I come from a smart. Like both my mom and dad are smart. You
Yeah,
know? Like,
very smart,
They're
yeah.
very smart people. So
There's
you
an
know,
expectation.
There's
like,
there's
so
high
much.
expectations.
First generation.
Yeah, you know, so all of us have degrees. You know,
Mm-hmm.
every single one of my brothers and sisters, we're all,
Yeah.
you know, we have that paper. So,
Yep.
but yeah, you know, it's funny because all three of us graduated college the same year.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, technically I won by a semester,
Yeah.
but
But you had 2 degrees.
and I got 2 degrees. So, but
Just saying.
yeah,
Flex.
yeah, you know, but you know, both my sisters are super smart.
And then after you wrapped up football, well, first of all, what was it like competing on the collegiate level as an athlete? Like, how was that different from high school?
So when I got to college, like I was saying, Northern Colorado, they had won the national championship twice. I got there and I was the big dog, one of the big dogs in the state, you know, coming out my senior year. And when I got to UNC, the kids I came in with were a lot of guys that were on the same level as me.
Yeah.
You know,
No more big
as
dogs.
seniors. Like, you know, we were the big dogs
Yeah.
our senior year. When we got to Northern Colorado, you know, we were just the
Freshmen, new guys.
we were freshmen.
Yeah.
You know, because we had nothing but like all Americans.
Yeah.
So
It was a nationally ranked team.
We were a nationally ranked team. I mean, I can name guys off that team that played in the NFL for years. You know, they Super Bowl rings. You know, so once you step onto it, you know, there's levels to it. You know, just like everything. You step into that level, you know, you're like, okay, this is what's scratching NFL level. This is right below that. So getting there, you know, I mean, I won't lie, I got pounded for the first 2-3 months. You know, we had a linebacker that, you know, I learned a lot from. and it's mostly just from getting my ass kicked.
Yeah. It's the best way to learn, the struggle.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was a grind, you know, and it was one of those things. It's like, you know, when I go to alumni stuff now, it's like that passage, you know, like, okay, you know, it's funny when we go to the alumni stuff and we see guys that, you know, I don't know about that guy.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at him like he didn't earn it, you know what I mean? So, you know, when you see these guys, you know, you show up to the alumni stuff, you know, they're like, hey, what's up? You know, it's a different respect.
Yeah.
You know, so, but yeah, you know, getting your ass beat for for a while, you know, but it's definitely.
Do you remember the first game that you started in?
Yeah.
In college?
Oh yeah.
What was
Most
that
definitely.
like? What was it like playing for that crowd and at that level?
So, Northern Colorado, when I was there, we played in a conference that had North Dakota State, North Dakota, South Dakota. You know, they were the biggest schools in their states. When we used to play North Dakota State, you know, they got guys that played quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Currently, we used to go play them, and we would play in front of 60,000.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was a sold out crowd. I mean, it's the big times, you know. And the first game I ever started was actually, we played Western State.
Okay. Yeah.
Up in Gunnison. So, you know, they're not that big of a school. So for me, starting up there, it was, you know, you don't get the big time football atmosphere. But just knowing that, I'm like, you know, you start reflecting on like, man, I remember all them little car rides that my mom used to take me out to Fruta, you know, for practice. And, you know, you start thinking about all the times, you know, and
all the work that you put to that day
to get to this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a sense of gratitude that comes over you.
that washes you.
That washes over you, and like you're kind of like, okay, don't let people down. Go out here, do your thing.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, that's what it's like when you start reaching those levels. You know, I felt the same thing when I started, you know, playing professionally. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm out here, I'm getting paid doing this, you know? So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, when you just get those feelings when you hit those levels.
And so you're now playing, you're starting, you're in the mix more. Your high school or your college career starts to wind down. What's the next steps? What do you end up doing after college?
So I just kind of, I wasn't sure what I was going to do when I got done with school. Because like I said, I really went there to play football.
It seems like a lot of, you hear that a lot. Like the goal was college.
Yeah.
And then it's like, now what?
Yeah. So, I went there to play football. Luckily, like I said, I came out of there with 2 degrees. But I felt like I shorted myself.
Okay.
I felt like I probably didn't give myself the best chance to move to the next level. Started partying and just having too much fun, wanting to be the cool guy, you know. So I didn't train as hard as I should have been. Partying.
In hindsight.
In hindsight. Because I definitely have the talent to play at the next level.
Yeah.
But, in hindsight, it's what I should have done different. But I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew I wanted to still do something physical.
Yeah.
Athletically, I guess. So I went to some tryouts, for some teams, a few NFL teams. And at the time, the Arena Football League was big. They had they had a TV contract. So they were paying guys, pretty good money. So I ended up going into a tryout for the Rattlers down in Arizona.
Yep.
And I got an invite back. I got into the camp, and then I was literally the last guy cut.
Okay.
And then I ended up signing and playing with an arena team out in Fresno.
Okay.
And I was out there for a couple of years, and I went to a team out in Nebraska because they got a different league out there. And I
traveled around.
Just traveled around. I was kind of like a journeyman. Like I said, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet.
That's how you were expressing yourself.
Yeah, just kind of like, let's just keep doing this for now because I don't know how long. Football's one of them games. Once you take that helmet off, you can't put it back on.
And you weren't sure if you were ready to take it off.
I wasn't sure if I was ready to take it off either. So just kind of floated around, man. I would come back to Denver and work bars and stuff like that. Go back play football, and I did this for a few years. After I got done playing, I just got to a certain age where basically my college coach had told me, he was like, Junior, when you get to a certain age,
About time to hang it up.
it's about time to hang it up.
So don't physically hurt yourself.
He's like,
permanently.
yeah, there's going to come a point where it's going to be time to hang it up. He's like, because then you're wasting time. You should be making money. And so he was like, you set an age where you want to call it quits. So I kind of set that age at like 28.
Okay.
When I got to 28, I stopped. Moved back home here to Denver, and I started working like call centers and that kind of stuff. And then
Still trying to figure it out.
still trying to figure it out,
Looking
man.
for the next way to express yourself.
just trying to still figure it out, man. And one of the things that kind of hurt me from playing football is I fell into a drug addiction.
Sure.
My pain pills, that thing kind of
Comes with the territory.
kind of took over my life for a while.
A physical thing like football that you're getting hurt.
And for a while there, I was self-medicating, trying to just, okay, this is what I got to do to get through practice. Because there was a point in time too, I was taking like 20, 25 Advil before practice, after practice, so when I came back to Denver, I fell into some issues with that and decided to leave because I was like, man, I can't stay here. I'll die. So I moved to Hawaii.
Yeah.
which saved my life, you know.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are out there. They were the only ones out there at the time.
Yeah.
Because my dad had just retired from the ministry, and well, he was out there for a few years still, but he moved back to Hawaii, and I actually went out there for a wedding. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I went out there for a wedding, and the day before the wedding, I had like this hangnail, and it was like infected really fucking bad. And Allie was supposed to give me a ride to the airport in the morning. I'm like, Allie, can you loan me some money so I can get the antibiotics
For the hangnail.
for my hangnail, right? Because I really went, you know,
Yeah.
I just didn't have the money. You know what I'm saying? She's like, no,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to do with the money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So anyways, sister picks me up, takes me to the airport. I go to Hawaii. I'm there for the wedding. The whole time there, I'm like miserable because I'm going through withdrawal.
Yeah. Of course.
And 2 days before I'm supposed to come home, one of my homies calls me that I know from college. Bro, guess who just called me? I'm like, who? Your sister Allie. What? Why is she calling you? I don't know. She over here trying to set up an intervention.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And the homie's going straight to the source.
yeah, and he you know, he's like, you know, I shouldn't be doing this, but you my boy. Like, I'm just letting you know
What's coming.
what's about to happen when you step off this plane.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So I never came back.
Guess I'm moving to Hawaii.
So I never came back.
I ain't trying to fight with little sis.
Yeah, so I never came back. And that's probably, in my opinion, rehab wasn't for me.
You found the rehab you needed, the way that you needed.
I needed to do it my way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So in hindsight, you know, I felt bad for doing that to my sister. But I'm like, listen, this is a me problem.
Yeah. I mean,
let me fix it. I appreciate
all of the wobbles figure itself out. Though.
Yeah, you know, I appreciate the help, but like this problem is something like the only person that can fix it is me.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So what did you do with your time in Hawaii?
I just really dove into just learning who I am, like truly who I am.
You went inward.
I went inward.
Yeah.
You know, I really dove into culture, family, and just, you know, growing up here, I felt kind of jaded almost. You know, like, okay, I grew up the way that they want you to grow up in a sense. And I felt like when I was growing up, I was almost sometimes kind of ashamed of who I was.
Sure.
You know, when you grow up being like the only one in a place where you grow up, you're like, you know.
There's identity issues.
There's identity issues, you know, because, you know, fucking as much as I, you know, love Grand Junction, like I said, there's issues, you know. There's racism there. There's, you know, that kind of stuff. So just being able to navigate that, you know, was a challenge. And then trying to be who you are at the same time was.
Yeah. Trying to live up to the expectations or the persona.
Yeah.
And then also experiencing what it means to be the only Tongan in an area and the expectations of your athletic career.
Yeah.
And then, you know, things working out, things not working out.
Yeah, you know, and I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of
What were
do
some of
these
the
things.
what were some of the things you did in Hawaii that you could attribute to creating a path to getting sober and finding balance?
Right. So
What was the process?
yeah, so I mean, growing up, and you know this as well, you know, my parents were big on the culture.
Sure.
They tried to push a lot of the stuff on us. So my parents didn't necessarily hide it from us. They tried to expose it to us, but it just not being around.
It's one thing living in the only house that experiences that culture to
Yes.
going to the place where that culture exists at every corner.
Exactly. So that's what it was for me. Because like I knew who I was.
Sure.
But I truly didn't at the same time.
Yeah.
There was layers that I still had to figure out. And just, and understanding like my family lineage and just kind of, like I said, where I really truly come from, like who are my grandparents? Like,
Yeah.
hearing stories about them that I would never hear unless I went there.
We're in a group of people that had experienced
Yeah.
the culture and your grandparents and
Yeah.
what that was.
Yeah. So for me, that was the big dive into it. When I moved to Hawaii, it was really just diving into the culture. Tattooing was also a big thing for me when I was out there, because on my dad's side of the family, I've got cousins and stuff, that we have part of our family is kind of, they're like part of the tattoo,
Sure.
family.
Traditional tattoo
traditional
world.
family, one of the traditional tattoo
Traditional
families,
Polynesian tattoos and whatever.
originally. So
Yeah.
my cousin in Hawaii has kind of taken that role on and really dove into it. And just being around him and seeing how the tattooing pertains to like my family.
What it means to be
What it means
and to have those tattoos.
And
Culturally.
Yeah, and just having that stuff really, it resonated with me.
Yeah.
Just being able to know, okay, this is who you truly are. The hip hop stuff and all that stuff, that's part of you too.
Sure.
But this stuff right here is truly who you are.
This is the essence, and that's part of the essence.
Yeah. So, and just being in touch with those roots and, understanding, like I said, my family lineage and knowing what this grandma did and, how many sisters and brothers she had and,
all the different things they did.
All the different things.
Establish the community and the family. And
Yeah, and just seeing how it all ties into why I'm here today.
yeah. How long did you stay in Hawaii that time?
See, so I left here, it was probably 2009, 2010 is when I left here for that wedding. I did come back one time, but then I went back.
Yeah.
And that's when I didn't come back, because that's when Allie was going to set up
Sure.
the thing. So I stayed out there for 5 years, 6 years, till about 2015.
Is that when you started getting into bodybuilding?
So I started getting into bodybuilding around 2012.
Okay.
And that was kind of a way for me to, because I still was competitive.
Yeah, it was an outlet for you to be competitive.
Yeah, I was still competitive, and I was kind of going through a depression at that time when I got done playing football, because only until recently have I come to terms with that time in my life.
Yeah.
I was depressed during that time, and just dealing with some of those, skeletons in my closet now.
Yeah. During COVID, when I was getting sober, like I got sober right before COVID, and then I'm in COVID, and I had this urge to create, but we can't really go out and do too much. Bro, I started making cookies.
Right.
And I had to like trick myself and like do it at as high of a level as I could, and I didn't want to just so I started making cookies like using dates, right? Because I was eating healthy and I wasn't trying to consume a lot of unnatural processed sugar, and I'm doing certain things, and so I created like a cookie business.
Yeah.
As a way to be creative, to express myself and like refine that spark.
Yeah.
Which it sounds kind of similar to like the bodybuilding thing. It's like,
100%.
That's how I combated the depression. Like,
Yeah. Then, like I said, I was in this depression. I was going to work every day, but when I got done playing football, I told myself, I was like, I'm never lifting a weight again. I'm never gonna run ever again.
yeah,
And then I got up to 400 pounds, and this is how it all started.
yeah.
I can't remember the year, but it started on Christmas Eve. I'm sitting in Hawaii in the house by myself. My whole family is here
Okay.
in Denver.
Yeah.
I'm the only one in Hawaii, stuck there by myself.
400 pounds.
400 pounds. Like, I just started a new job doing medical coding, and like, I'd only been there 2 months, so I couldn't take any leave. Plus, Hawaii's hard, man. I didn't have the money,
No.
So I'm in Hawaii by myself while my whole family is sitting here, and I'm sitting in Hawaii on Christmas Eve by myself watching TV, and I'm just like feeling sorry for myself.
Tell me Chuck Norris came on the TV.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just had like a come to Jesus aha moment, like watching TV, and I'm like feeling sorry for myself, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you sound like a bitch right now.
Sure.
You sound like a bitch right now. What's
Yeah,
wrong
what
with
you
you?
doing?
What are you doing, bro? Like, what's wrong with you? So literally that night, I had some money that I had saved up for some weed.
Yeah.
Woke up that morning, I was like, nah, I ain't getting no weed. I can smoke with the boys, at the tattoo shop.
I can figure it out.
I can figure that out. But I went and took that money, and I went to fucking GNC and bought some protein powder,
Did what you knew how to do.
Exactly.
Use the information that you acquired over all those years.
Exactly. Do what I know what to do, what I've been doing my whole life.
Yeah.
Got some supplements, signed up for 24-hour fitness, and that's when it started. Started bodybuilding, and I shouldn't say I started bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I gave myself a year.
You set parameters to get back into shape first, and then
Yes.
you found yourself enjoying it.
Yeah, well, and I was just like, I just, like anything else, like I came up with a plan. I was like, okay, let's give yourself a year, just get back into it, You're over here fat as fuck. Let's try and get some of this off,
Yeah.
So I gave myself a year, just started working out again, getting back in the gym. And then after a year is when I decided, I was like, okay, what can you do competition-wise that involves physical activity that you could do, that you might be able to do at a very high level? And I was like, I think this might be
a thing.
This might be my...
It could be an outlet.
Yes, this could be my, my thing. Because my whole life too, everyone's always told me you should bodybuild.
Yeah.
I've always been pretty strong and light at the same time. So I felt like it was just a natural place for me to go. So I decided I was gonna bodybuild, and I got a coach, and like you said, do what I know.
Yeah.
Got a coach. He's also my nutritionist. And then I did the bodybuilding thing for like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And then
and did you find that bodybuilding filled some of that competitive space that you were looking for it to fill?
yeah, absolutely. I felt like after I got done bodybuilding, I felt like, you know what? I'm good. Because I kind of quit at the peak of my bodybuilding career. I was going to all these shows, and
Well, you got from it what you were trying to get.
yeah, and I got to a certain point, and it started to feel more like work
Yeah.
than me just enjoying, just doing the sport. So,
I was just chatting with one of the homies really, recently, and he's a stylist, and when people sit in his chair, one of the things he asks them constantly is what do you do for you?
Right.
And that's what that was at the time that it was. But once it stopped being for you, you had to
Take a step back.
reevaluate.
Yeah. And even up to, and that's been about 10 years now. So,
Yeah.
but even up to this point, it still pops in my head, and we should think about doing the show.
Right.
But then so I don't know.
But you're still figuring it out. And then, so you're in Hawaii, you've gotten sober, you've done some bodybuilding. What brought you back to the States? What brought you back?
So what really brought me back to to the States from Hawaii is, great question. A lot of people ask me this.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back to the States because I came back to the mainland because Hawaii's hard.
Yeah, of course.
It's tough out there,
It's expensive, not a lot of money.
It's expensive. The money's tough. You don't live for the holiday, like the weekend. You don't live for the holiday. You live for every other holiday.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are moving out of there now, but
Me personally, like I would get stir crazy.
yeah, I mean that definitely does pop in. I definitely got a little stir crazy too. But like I said, I just living there really taught me to kind of just take in the good and just forget about the bad. Just what we got here is what we got.
Yeah.
So you do get a little stir crazy. That's just natural as a human being. But you learn how to manage it. Going to another island helps. Being on Oahu and going to like Maui definitely helps. But being here is a whole different thing. But coming back here, it was mostly because both my mom and dad are out there, and my brother Johnny's out there too. But I left because I felt like financially it was better for me to come back here, and I'm better able to support my mom and dad here than I am there.
Yeah.
So me and my brother Johnny, he was like, that's cool. I'll stay in Hawaii, just go back, do what you got to do. So I left Hawaii in 2014 or 15, something like that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to leave Hawaii unless I had a job.
Yeah.
So the only job I was able to get when I left Hawaii was a trim job in Humboldt.
Yeah.
And, to this day, those are my peoples up there, man.
Yeah.
I love them up there.
You got to experience a whole nother side
A
of
whole nother
polyculture.
Yeah, man. It was awesome up there, man. It's a whole different, you're out in the middle of nowhere up there, man. You really are. That's rebel country.
Yeah.
And weed and money and drugs and crazy gangs and all mixed into one.
North Bay, Humboldt.
All that mixed into one makes for an interesting experience. To this day, I would love to move back up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, got to hit my boys up. Hey, let me get a little parcel on, the corner of your 300 acres. But yeah, not,
What were you doing while you were trimming? Like, where were you living? Like, what did that look like?
So yeah, when we first got up there, we were living on a compound with one of our Samoan homies, and he had a property up there. It was about 10, 15 acres, right along the 101. And it's right in the middle of the hills, because half of Humboldt's like hills, and then the other half is like this wetland, marshy. You know what I'm talking about if you've been to the Bay. And when we were up there, that's where we lived, was right along, you know, the 101 in these hills. And my first year up there, we had like a worker's house because this compound had like probably 3 or 4 buildings, you know. So, but, you know, when I got up there was like 40 people up there to trim, but you're only up there for a short time.
Yeah.
Because the harvest is only, you know, from, they start bringing in people around July, August. And they stay till like
Couple month thing.
Yeah. So, but when you go in, you got to go hard.
Yeah.
You know, go get your money. And yeah, we got up there, started to trim, and yeah, man, we were in trim camp for like 3 months, me and my brother, because that was our only way to get, you know, to get out of Hawaii with a job.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I left Hawaii, I was kind of floating around for a month before I got up to Humboldt.
Yeah.
Because I came over to watch a bodybuilding show in Vegas, and then I went and trimmed with some homies in the Bay Area. And then like out of the blue, oh, you know, the ride's coming to pick you up. So I jumped in that ride to go up to Humboldt.
Yeah.
So got up there, we were in trim camp for a few months. When it came to the end of trim camp, you know, they usually, some farmers will ask some of the guys to stay through the winter.
Yeah.
Because there's still a shitload of work you got to do.
Still work to be done.
There's still a lot of work, you know. So me and my brother ended up staying there, and I ended up going to another farm up in Trinity, and my brother stayed at the compound.
Okay.
And when I went up to Trinity, that's a whole different beast. The Emerald Triangle, there's levels to the Emerald Triangle. You know, there's Mendocino, then there's Humboldt, and they say Trinity is the king.
Yeah.
Trinity's out there in the middle of nowhere. It's the smallest county in California. But it's like this very small section of these hills that Humboldt and you know, it's in. And it's, I mean, it's surrounded by reservation land. So, I mean, you're out in the middle. You're out there, man.
Yeah. Right off the res.
Yeah, you're out there, man. And I went up there to grow, and I lived in a tent that first season for like a year. But I've got like $10 million worth of plants right outside my tent. You know, I was the only guy up there for that first year, and we did good. You know,
what was the experience like going from, you know, a collegiate athlete and doing some bodybuilding and being around family all the time to like being by yourself?
Isolation.
For real?
Yeah, like the closest thing I can relate to what it's like to be up there is like being incarcerated, except you have the freedom to move around.
Yeah.
But you're literally like, you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere by yourself.
Do you think that the time that you spent out there, like really in the wilderness and isolated, did you start like really, you know, looking inward and like answering some of the questions that you had culturally, mentally? Like,
yeah.
How did that contribute to your journey of getting balanced?
Yeah. So Humboldt was after going through, you know, getting over an addiction and that kind of thing, going into Humboldt was kind of, it was almost like a mental fuck. Because, you know, you're in complete isolation. You don't see people for weeks, you know. You know, you're out there like talking to the dogs and talking to your plants, and you get kind of weird a little bit. But yeah, mentally you kind of, I mean, yeah, you're
tapping into new experiences that weren't offered to you when you're around people. Like
Yeah,
you're,
yeah.
you're answering questions, you're experiencing the world from a different perspective.
From a whole different perspective. You know, you kind of start to see things a lot more for what they are.
Yeah.
You don't start making up these stories in your head, I guess you should, when so, because you start realizing like what's real and what's not. Yeah, being up there though was definitely mentally different. Because when you try to like come back to society,
Colfax and cream.
yeah, yeah, because when you try to come back in, it's damn, that thing's whistling. Because it's just hard when you try to come back into being around people. You've been so isolated that like you kind of get set in your ways a little bit, and you get a little snappy, but then you start realizing you're like, God, I've been isolated too long.
I had been around you some when we were young, and then there was a gap where I only observed your interaction, your experience, like through social media or whatever. When I got back in contact, and we'll get into that, when I got back into contact with you, it seemed like you were more peaceful and balanced. And from our interactions these days, you've explained to me your love of growing plants and what that is. And I feel like that came from that time. No?
Yeah, 100%.
When you're in Humboldt,
100%.
like you grew a different love for something that was that wasn't being the best or becoming a professional athlete, or it was this other thing.
Yeah. I feel like I've come to realize, like, when it comes to creative spaces, that's my lane. Like, truly, that's like my one love. Like,
That's the for you thing.
Yeah, is plants.
And that came from that time?
No, my love for plants actually came from when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. Being Polynesian, and my dad used to tell us stories when he was in high school about how he had to, they had like some big old competition about growing a garden.
Yeah.
And my dad would tell us this story because my dad always used to have a lush garden. And when I was a little kid, I'd be running around in the garden just in my underwear and picking green tomatoes off the off the plant, eating them, and just
experiencing that.
Yeah. So for me, like when I think about plants, that's where it started for me.
So Humboldt was almost like a rediscovery then.
Yeah, and I've always kind of dabbled with plants here and there. Like I understand them very well. Like, I had to get my master gardening certification through University of California. I was top of my class because to me, I was already like, I've been knowing this stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, going to Humboldt was definitely a little bit of re-education, a little bit, but growing marijuana is a different monster.
Yeah, of course.
It's especially at the commercial level.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to sell product that you're trying to sell. So growing in Humboldt kind of just gave me like the finer details of how a plant grows, how it roots, why it does this, So, you learn about the cycles and all that good stuff too. So for me, I feel like if there's two things in this world that I know a lot about, is plants and football.
Plants and football.
Plants and football. So, and then music's probably the other one. So.
Okay, so you're in Humboldt, you're isolated, you've gotten that, and then what kept you from staying in Humboldt, or what led you out of there?
Yeah, so when I first got to Humboldt, we were kind of, when me and Johnny first got up there, it was very much the end of an era. The underground growing styles and that kind of stuff was kind of coming to an end. That's why I left. I ended up moving down to San Francisco. I ended up growing with some of my good homies out there for a couple years, and the legalization happened out in California. Colorado was already there.
Yep.
But it's about, I think 2018, I think it was about,
Okay.
when they went rec legal.
Yep.
And that's when everything changed in California a lot. Pounds were selling, when I first got there, they were selling 2,500, $2,000. Then once the legalization happened, everything dropped down to like $600, $800. So it just wasn't sustainable for the farmers to keep us up there.
Yeah,
and, and most of the farmers I know now don't even grow anymore, just because it's not really a slap on the wrist like it was previous to the legalization. So a lot of them now, they, do construction work or other type of farm work nowadays. So, but I haven't been up there. It's been a few years. I got to make it up there though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I consider those, that's family, coming up there, because it's just like sports. You're up there struggling, grinding.
Everybody's neck and neck.
Everyone's just trying to make it work, just get these plants to the finish line.
And then that brought you back to Denver?
Yeah, it brought me back to Denver just because I'd come back to Denver a couple of times, and I talked to some of our old homies from back in Junction about, getting back into the game here as far as, the marijuana game. So I was like, okay, let's see if I can get back to Denver and maybe
figure something
out. But then I got back here and COVID happened, basically.
Got weird.
It got kind of weird, So I was just working. Basically, I was just working, the loading docks and stuff like that. We were loading trucks and stuff like that, back of the house stuff for like Penske, and I was at Burlington's for a little while, and just trying to keep afloat during that time, really.
Trying to stay busy.
Yeah, because
I was managing an ice cream shop and driving for Lyft.
Right, and that's when I happened to run into you. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up back in Denver. Yeah, it's nice to be home, being around the fam's nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's been nice these last few weeks just hanging out with the fam.
Just chilling?
Just chilling, man. I got nieces and nephews that are in high school.
And are you finding yourself, are you enjoying being the elder statesman when it comes to football now that or just competitive sport in general? Are you enjoying being like that quiet mentor that gets to help here and there? Or?
Yeah, I kind of know that's my role anyways.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, like I have a nephew that's playing at UTEP. I always tease him and stuff like that, but I'm not trying to talk about football too much, like as far as like what he's doing.
Yeah.
I tease him about being a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, of course.
But like, even though he's not, but. But yeah, just hanging out, seeing my nieces and nephews grow up, because, I don't have any kids. And just playing that uncle role it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have fun with it.
What is next for Junior? Like, what's on the horizon creatively? Like, what's the you thing? I know we reconnected, you jumped back into the club space, you've been doing a bunch of club things. And now you're economically moving in a way that's working for you.
Yeah.
But what are you, like, creatively, what are you contemplating? Like, what's the thing you're doing for you?
Right now, like you said, I've been doing this club thing now. So I'm going through a recalibration right now. The things I'm working on right now, been mostly working on, as far as creatively, I've really gotten into doing watchmaking.
Watchmaking?
Yeah, that's kind of been my thing as far as like creative outlets. And I still play. I've been playing disc golf with a lot with my buddies,
Yeah.
bowling.
Which is that like competitive thing?
Yeah, I just happened to work with a couple of guys at one of the other clubs. I mean, he's a 24-year-old kid, but he's on the pro level.
Yeah.
And it's just I like playing with him, because he's definitely made me a lot better. But it's just funny for me being at the age I am. I'm like, I look at myself like I'm still coachable.
Yeah.
I'll ask him, hey man, well, how do I do this? I'll just
Well,
try
that's something that I talked about that in one of the books I wrote in regards to you and my experience with you. People that spend a great deal of time in competitive sport or military, right? Like they tend to be coachable, and so there's like they're looking for that. They're
Yeah.
looking to be coached because they know that it's going to lead them to perfecting whatever thing that they're trying to perfect.
Right.
Where, if you're somebody who, kind of carved your path and, did everything on your own, you're not as open to being coached or advised
Right.
or whatever. And that's a good quality to have, to be open to learn new things,
Right. Yeah, so I always try to just be coachable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah. My guy, Junior. Let's go.
My man.
Boom.